Okay, welcome to Use and Conservation of Resources, the CK12 reading. And hi, Mr. B, and this is Brooke is going to join me, and we're going to read this together for your enjoyment, so you don't have to read because. So, use and conservation of resources. Less objectives describe how people use natural resources. List ways to conserve natural resources. Vocabulary, just 3 words. Conservation, natural resource, recycling. Introduction. Let's read the introduction for us.
A natural resource is anything in nature that humans need. Metals and fossil fuels are natural resources, but so are water, sunlight, soil, and wind. Even living things are natural resources.
That's right. Everything and anything that people use is a natural resource. Using natural resources. We need natural resources for just about everything we do. We need them for food and clothing, for building materials. We even need them to have fun. Table 1 gives examples of how we use natural resources. Can you think of any other ways we use natural resources? So we have cars, are made from iron ore, electronics made from lead. Let's see, houses from lumber, jewelry. Do you like jewelry? Yeah, me either. I like a watch. Food, oh yes, food, especially tacos. You like tacos?
Yeah, I love tacos.
I like tacos too. Corn seed oil and clothing from cotton.
I like clothes too.
Yep. Good. And some natural resources are renewable, others are not. It depends in part on how we use them.
Renewable resources. Renewable resources can be renewed as they are used. An example is timber, which comes from trees. New trees can be planted to replace those that are cut down. Sunlight is a renewable resource. It seems we will never run out of that. Just because a resource is renewable, it doesn't mean we shouldn't use it carelessly. If we aren't careful, we can pollute resources, then they may no longer be fit for use. Water is one example. If we pollute a water source, it may not be usable for drinking, bathing, or any other type of use. We can also overuse resources that should be renewable. In this case, the resources may not be able to recover. For example, fish are renewable resources. That's because they can reproduce and make more fish. But water pollution and overfishing can cause them to die out if their population becomes too low. Figure 11 shows another example.
So forests as renewable resources. Forests should be renewable resources. The forest on the left is healthy and used for recreation. The forest on the right was killed by acid rain. Healthy, killed by acid rain. Terrible. Non-renewable resources. Some resources can't be renewed. At least they can't be renewed fast enough to keep up with use. Fossil fuels are examples. It takes millions of years for them to form. We are using them up much more quickly. Elements that are used to produce nuclear power are another example. They include uranium. This element is already rare. Sooner or later, it will run out. Supplies of non-renewable resources are shrinking. This makes it harder to get. Oil is a good example. Oil reserves beneath the land are running out. So oil companies have started to drill for oil far out in the ocean. This costs more money. Also, it's also more dangerous. Figure 1.2 shows an oil rig that exploded in 2010. The explosion killed 11 people. Millions of barrels of oil were spilled in the water. It took months to plug the leak.
Who uses natural resources? Rich nations use more natural resources than poor nations. In fact, the richest 20% of people use 85% of the world's resources, which about the poorest 20% of people, they use only 1% of the world's resources. You can see this unequal distribution of oil resources in Figure 1.3. Imagine a world in which everybody has equal access to resources. Some people would have fewer resources than they do now, but many people would have more. In the real world, the difference between rich and poor just keeps growing.
More people, more resources. Every 20 minutes, the human population adds 3,500 people. More people need more resources. For example, we now use 5 times more fossil fuels than we did in 1970. The human population is expected to increase for at least 40 years. What will happen to resource use? And there's figure 2 with the oil rig that exploded. And conservation of natural resources.
How can we protect Earth's natural resources? One answer is conservation. This means saving resources. We need to save resources so some will be left for the future. We also need to protect resources from pollution and overuse. When we conserve resources, we also cut down on the trash we produce. Americans throw out 340 million tons of trash each year. We throw out 2.5 million plastic bottles alone every hour. Most of what we throw out ends up in landfills. You can see a landfill in figure 1.4, and in a landfill, all those plastic bottles take hundreds of years to break down. What are the problems caused by producing so much trash? Natural resources must be used to produce the materials. Land must be given over to dump the materials. If the materials are toxic, they may cause pollution.
The 3 R's. You probably already know about the 3 R's. They stand for reduce, reuse, recycle. The third R, recycle, has caught on in a big way. That's because it's easy. There are thousands of places to drop off items such as aluminum cans for recycling. Many cities allow you to just put your recycling in a special can and put it at the curb. We haven't done as well with the first 2 R's, reduce and reusing, but they aren't always as easy as recycling. Recycling is better than making things from brand new materials, but it still takes some resources to turn recycled items into new ones. It takes no resources at all to reuse items or not to buy them in the first place.
Reducing resource use. Reducing resource use means just what it says, using fewer resources. There are lots of ways to reduce our use of resources. Buy durable goods. Choose items that are well made so they will last longer. You'll buy fewer items in the long run, so you'll save money as well as resources. That's a win-win. Repair rather than replace. Fix your bike rather than buying a new one. Sew on a button instead of buying a new shirt. You'll use fewer resources and save money. Buy only what you need. Don't buy a gallon of milk if you can only drink half of it before it spoils. Instead, buy half a gallon and drink all of it. You won't be wasting materials or money.
Oil consumption per capita. This is a nice graph that shows that. Buying local, for example, buying local produce at a farmer's market, like in figure 1.5, which is way down here. There's our farmer's market, and let's go back up to where we're reading. A lot of resources are used to save by not shipping goods long distances. Products bought at a farmer's market use less packaging too. About a third of what we throw out is packaging. Try to buy items with the least amount of packaging. For example, buy bulk items instead of those that are individually wrapped. Also try to select items with packaging that can be reused or recycled. This is called pre-cycling. Pop cans, we know as soda.
Yeah.
And plastic water bottles, for example, are fairly easy to recycle. Some types of packaging are hard to recycle. You can see the examples in figure 1.6. If it can't be reused or recycled, it's a waste of resources. Many plastics, the recycling symbol on the bottom of plastic containers show the type of plastic they contain. Numbers 1 and 2 are easier to recycle than higher numbers. Mixed materials. Packaging that contains more than one material may be hard to recycle. This carton is made mostly of cardboard, but it has plastic around the opening. And there's our landfill, there's our farmer's market, and back to you.
Reusing resources. Reusing resources means using items again instead of throwing them away. A reused item can be used in the same way by someone else, or it can be used in a new way. For example, Shauna had a pair of jeans she had outgrown. She might give them to her younger sister to wear, or she might use them to make something different for herself. Say a denim shoulder bag. Some other ideas for reusing resources are shown in figure 1.7.
Recycling resources. Many things can be recycled. The materials in them can be reused in new products. For example, plastic water bottles can be recycled. The recycled material can be made into t-shirts. Old phone books can also be recycled and made into textbooks. When you shop for new products, look for those that are made from recycled material. See Figure 1.8. Even food scraps and lawn waste can be recycled. They can be composted and turned into humus for the garden. At most recycling centers, you can drop off metal cans, cardboard, and paper products, glass containers, and plastic bottles. Recycling stations like the one in Figure 1.9 are common. Curbside recycling usually takes these items too. Do you know how to recycle in your community? Contact your local solid waste authority to find out. If you don't already recycle, start today. It's a big way you can help save the planet. And then our lesson summary. Natural resources are anything that in nature humans need. Some natural resources are renewable, some are non-renewable. Rich nations use far more resources than poor. As human population grows, it will use more resources. And second, conservation means saving resources. To save natural resources, follow the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. And then we'll be answering questions 1 to 7. And there's some points to consider, some references, some more figures, and that is the end of that. Thank you so much, Brooke.